So I would love for each group to just share out some of their ideas and see if we can learn from each other. So I'll share the screen, and if someone from it looks like group 2 has the upper slide, or slide 47. So let me just share, and feel free, group 2 people, to discuss what you talked about. Can you guys see? No, you can you see the slides?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, shall I go? I wrote half of this. Sorry, again, no camera. In terms of adapting the materials from high school to two-year college, we have to be aware of a couple of things. And so first thing I realized was I always ask my students what they're going to be doing in 5 years, community college, life science majors, and they are remarkably specific as to whether they're going to be a physical therapist or a dentist or pharmacy school and so on. So for me to say, look at all these physics careers on the first day, they might actually take some umbrage at that. So I'd rather give them the survey. It is still important, even if they're not going to be a physicist, that they know what avenues are available to those with physics degrees. But I would give the survey after a few weeks. And again, because my labs have a bit more slack time and are a bit more informal, I would do it during a lab session. But if you have a discussion section, that would be fine as well. But I do feel that I shouldn't do this on day one. They're already scared. They don't know what's going to happen. And I feel like I need to build some trust and some two-way communication with them first. And the other reason is that I come across as a recruiter, like a cult leader. Join us, be a physics major, or a salesperson doing a sales pitch. That'll just turn them off right there. They'll say, I'm never going to do this. So what I try to do is ask them what they think their chosen field is. And sometimes I challenge them. Give me an example of something that doesn't involve physics. And I can usually come up on the spot with some physics aspect to whatever it is they're doing, even if they're pushing keys on a keyboard. And they like that. So they like the idea that physics will enhance their own understanding. And then occasionally, happened with a couple of women last semester. Towards the end of the semester, they said, I think I'm going to change my major. And they're now in our engineering track physics class.
Very cool. You know, you bring up a good point about identity, and I saw the other group talking about that as well. And really, yeah, you can't, they've crafted these identities through high school of, I'm going to be a physical therapist, or I'm going to be a, whatever some of the other options were. And it is important to think about their values and their identity as we're shifting it, shifting these like deep-seated identities. Awesome. Anyone else from group 2 have anything to add? Great. Thank you for those ideas. Group 1.
I'll speak for our group if that's okay. So our conversations kind of went all over. So we started a little bit talking about what AJ had ended before we went to breakout rooms, sharing. And so we talked about a couple of programs that are trying to showcase that physics is important in the education system. We also, I'm starting halfway down the page. Sorry, I'm pointing at the screen, but obviously you can't see my cursor.
Yes,
we can.
I'll point for you.
Thank you. Yeah, so Tony shared what he's been doing with the careers in physics lesson and talking about how to extend that. So Tony uses it early in the term as he's getting to know the students, and feels like, they do their career profile, and then it sort of seems to end. And so one of the things we talked about, trying to go back to what Philip was talking about, how to show that what they're learning or what they're going to learn in the course is related to their career choices. So even if we're not really recruiting them to become physics majors, we can still make them feel more positive about why they're in a physics class. And that led us to talking about identity and building identity as a physicist or a scientist. And so Joe said that one of the things he had done in the last couple of years is to have mirrors everywhere and that says this is what a such and such looks like, so they can see themselves and help identify themselves in these different roles. But also thinking about, we had a discussion about what is a physicist and how we define a physicist, and whether we considered ourselves physicists. So I'll stop talking there.
That's something we at APS are always, well, at least the public engagement department is always talking about. It's like, who do we consider physicists? Who do we allow into our spaces, and how do we expand that view? So it's definitely something at APS that we're a few of us are thinking about and wanting to expand. I think it'll help with a lot of the issues that we're facing if we allow more people to think of themselves as physicists or physics people, physics curious, as we like to call it. Anyone else from group one?
I was going to add something. I don't know if I can share my screen.
Oh, sure.
Let me try. And so there you go. So this is the Canvas assignment that I give. And yeah, so initially I had, the link was Google Sheet, or but now we have a better link. So some of my students who took the career matching earlier, who are like wanted to submit the assignment right away, they did the first one. But so this is technically some of the stuff you were talking about. I was glad that at least I want them to reflect a little bit about their March and what surprised them, and they do talk about whether they found the person that they were matched with was kind of going in the same line that they were going. But as we had talked earlier, I just need to do a little bit more framing, which I forget sometimes coming into the semester, and also kind of building on that. I haven't done a very good job of building on this assignment in future assignments. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good reminder. And I feel like some of that, like, more touchy-feely stuff of like, see yourself in this is definitely part of high school, and not maybe as much part of post-secondary. So finding a way to have themselves embody something without like the cheesiness, I feel like is something to think about. I mean, the high school kids think it's cheesy too, but as high school teachers, we can like feed into that and be like, yes, I'm cheesy, just like humor me. I don't know how that comes across into
There's
your
a lot of cheesiness too into your
Okay.
college.
That's good to know.
So it fits in.
Okay, good.
I have to give a lot of feedback though, which is surprising because I have this link that has a Google slide from a slide deck that APS did, you guys did, and but then it's a resume setup, and I still have filled a lot of questions about what am I supposed to put in there, how am I, and I try to have them put their photo there so that they can show themselves and things like that, but it still fills a lot of questions, and I like their cheesiness too.
Yeah. You can always, now that you have these slides, if you go back to slide 36, you can show them some of these examples. Maybe that'll help them understand better what it is you're looking for. So slide 36 has, some of the examples. And then, feel free to change what you want them to do, but it might be a good visual. I know I need to like look at something to know what I need to do.
There's also more examples when you join the online community. And so it's one of the slides we're going to share here as we're wrapping up, is just a reminder to, if you haven't already, make a profile within our Step Up community, because then that's a way of you connecting with some others. So I'll share this for our last little bits here. We just wanted to remind, as Chris mentioned, of our next couple of sessions in the series. So the next one is September 23rd, where we're going to be going over the Women in Physics lesson, which is the one that takes probably a little bit more thought in how we might approach the conversation. I think most people can address a student, say, you want to be a physics major, let's talk about the careers. And we feel pretty well prepared to just walk into that conversation, whereas our Women in Physics one, usually we want a little bit more background on the statistics and things like that. And then our third one in the series on October 7th is the Everyday Actions, which is a whole list of inclusive activities to do in and out of the classroom in order to encourage your students to take more physics classes, to consider a career in physics, and just support them in the class that they're in, even if they decide not to go into physics, that they feel like they're included in your space. So if you go to the main website, stepupphysics.org, there's a button that says join our community. And so if you have a profile already, that's where you get to the discussion board. So there's one larger one for Step Up, where anybody can share programs that might be related or interesting to students who are in physics. You can start a thread on two-year colleges. So we'll probably start one with our optics folks and ask anybody else who's two-year college to kind of introduce themselves. And just next steps, if you do work with any high school teachers in the areas, our More Foundation grant is going to go through 2026 and allow us to focus on 3 of our biggest regions in the country to try and develop these kind of smaller communities that are doing the Step Up project. But we're always looking for anybody who's interested at any level to do the lesson. We've had several professors that have done it, like Tony at the post-secondary level. And so we love hearing about those experiences and passing those on. So next steps would be to try it yourself this fall or at the beginning of whichever semester you have, and then also sharing it with your other colleagues who may not have come, and continuing to give us feedback specifically as we kind of make more set materials for our two-year colleges. We do have a middle school adaptation that we put out through Physics Quest. And so now we're hoping to also be able to kind of package some of the best ideas about how to do it at the two-year college level that we can share with the community as well. So as we kind of wrap up, are there any questions about anything that we may have missed? But we want to be respectful of your time on a Saturday. So if you need to go, feel free.
And before you go, please fill in the evaluation. It's super quick, and it'll give both optics and Nicole and Bree some feedback on the workshop.
Thank you all so much for your thoughts and participation, and hope you have a great semester.
You too.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
so
thanks
much
a lot.
for
Mhm.
this.
I just wish I'd known about these resources sooner.
You can
Before,
always go back into the classroom.
Tell everybody that still works, Joe.
yeah, yes.
And we would really love to hear if you do these lessons, please email. Here, I'll give you the email for Step Up just to see how they work. Tony's input has been great, and I would love, we would love any information about how it goes in your two-year college workshops or classes as we start to build the resources for this group of instructors and students.
I'm the programming director for our local astronomy club here, and I have been very tempted, very, very, very tempted to use some of these resources as the basis for programs at our astronomy club meetings. I'm this close to experimenting with it. Maybe if some of y'all give me that little nudge, because I have 100% control. I mean, it's all up to me. So I'm just wondering if anybody has experimented with using and I had a talk with Kevin Lee in Sacramento about using some of his PER activities. Because I mean, everybody comes to our meetings and our public nights with phones now. That's how we do the imaging with our Unistellar thing. So if they have the phones, they have the tech in their hands to access this stuff, because everything is QR codes now. They can scan that code, they can pull up the app. Has anybody experimented in the social organization space with using resources like this? And Kevin didn't know of anyone. I don't know of anyone. So I don't know. I'm thinking about trying it just to see what happens.
You can use it for everything.
Yeah.
We're trying to attract more members because I'm 56 and I'm one of the youngest members in the club. And and we're trying to get more, women and girls into the club. So I don't know. I think I may try this.
Mm-hmm.
Just
We've
to see
had
what happens.
a few people who have liked the concept of the career matching and wanted to expand it to be all science being welcome, or like a chemistry version of it, so that it's a precursor. We also have people who do this physics-based lesson in the feeder classes. Like they'll go into the chemistry classes in order to attract them to go into the physics one. So I think the format is definitely applicable to everybody. And you can always just add additional profiles that you'd like to feature of people who were physics majors but went into astronomy.
And every now and then I still get asked to do something for the local science center as well. So I'm thinking that might be a good space to do this as well.
I can imagine it being like who do you think of when you think of a physicist? Like, what skills do you think physicists use? And then use that as a launching point into for instance, the matching with a physicist, right? And say, okay, well, what do these people say they need or use? And because when you ask, like, basically anyone who's not a practicing physicist who's a physicist, they'll talk about Big Bang Theory or Stephen Hawking, maybe.
Yeah, there's a couple of big names.
Yeah.
And that's part of the introduction for the women in physics lesson. For the next one is to actually have the students Google famous physicist and to look at the non-surprising trends about the images that show up. So it could definitely go kind of in conjunction with that.
That's great.
Any further questions? You're welcome to email us at any time. Our contact information is on the website, and we're around in all the different social media spheres. And we will be back here at the end of the month for the next series. We hope everybody can join us and tell more people to come and learn more about the lessons.